I've been using ComfyUI for some time for image generation purposes, and the workflow I currently use is basically the standard workflow I found online for Z image. I do have workflows for Create2, Ideogram, Anima, Anisi, MageFlow, and other things, right? But the two models I use mostly are Z image and Create2, sometimes Ideogram. Okay, so this is the default-ish workflow I found online, and you can see from here that it's basically allows you to generate a single image, and that's perfectly fine, right? Especially if you have a lot of resources on your machine, you can just generate an image, generate another one, generate another one. The models stay loaded in your memory, right? You don't need to unload one model to fit in another model. And what I mean by that is, you notice over here, we have load diffusion, load clip, load vibe, right? The diffusion and the clip total about maybe over 15 gigabytes, right? And I'm working within the limits of my machine. So what my machine actually tries to do is it will try to load the clip, finish using the clip, unload the clip, and then load the diffusion, then finish using the diffusion, and then unload it, right? So it's a lot of loading and unloading, and the loading and unloading process actually also takes time. It takes time to load the model into memory, because the model is on your machine, on your hard drive, and then it has to be loaded into memory from your drive, right, from your hard drive, and that takes time. So I was thinking, right, isn't there a more efficient way to do this? Because for my specific pipeline, I generate multiple images within that pipeline. So with this workflow, I generate image 1, then when it finishes, I generate image 2. When that finishes, I generate image 3. When that finishes, I generate image 4. And it is just it can be a very slow process, because it has to go image by image by image. And like I said, for every single workflow that runs, it has to load and unload all the models. So it will load the model, process, unload, load the next one, process, unload, then finish the generation process. Then when that is finished and it's moving on to the second generation process, it's the same thing all over again. So it can take a bit of time. So I figured, you know what, I'm a programmer. I know certain programming concepts. I know we can batch things together, which is basically, instead of having one lane where one car goes on that lane, and they that car needs to be going before the second car can also follow it, we could have a multiple lane road where multiple cars can go together, right? Which is basically the batching process. So I figured, you know what, let me test out trying to batch this thing and see how that works. So I tested it out here. You'll notice it's the same loading of the models. And then over here, we have a split. So positive, positive, positive. And then we have 3 save image nodes. Save image, save image, save image. So what this does is, it will process the image. It will at the end of this workflow, it will give me 3 separate images. So the first image is a young anime girl. The second image is black and white, whatever. And then the third image is a Latina female, right? So I tested this out, and it was faster. It was actually quite fast, because it didn't need to finish one whole image generation process to move on to the next, right? So I think it shaved off about 2 to 3 minutes of time, right? So if I use this, I know that I can actually save some time using this processor, if I can just keep doing it and keep adding on more images, right? Adding on more generations. So instead of generating 3, I can generate 5. Instead of generating 5, I can generate 10, right? But with this process too, it is still the same loading and unloading of the models. So the way ComfyUI works is, it looks at the node and it looks at the requirements for that specific node. Then it goes and finishes all the requirements for that specific node before it moves on to the next step. So at this point over here, this specific node needs input from the model, which is the diffusion model. It needs input from the clip, which is this. The clip basically encodes the text, right? And then it needs, okay, so it needs those two. and then from there it needs the vi, which is from here, right? So what ends up happening is, for this specific workflow, it goes, even though it is multiple image generations in one workflow, it still goes sequentially. So the first image gets generated, so this will run, then it will load the clip, finish, load the diffusion model, finish, load the vi, finish, then generates the first image. Then it will move on to the next one, load the clip, finish, load the diffusion model, finish, then load the vi, and then image, right? And then the third one, the same thing, clip, finish, diffusion model, finish, and then vi, finish, then the image is given to you. So this was closer to what I imagined, but it still wasn't where I wanted to be. So I decided to check, because what I essentially wanted to do was allow the system to load the first model, finish using it completely. So it doesn't need to load the model and unload it and then load it and unload it. It will load it once, complete using it, never need it again, and then discard it. Then it will load the next one, complete using it, finish everything, then discard it, then load the third one, complete using, finish, and discard, right? So we don't need to load, unload, load, unload, load, unload multiple times in a row. We don't need to do that for one specific model multiple times in a row. And what I came up with, because I checked online and I didn't find any solution for that. So what I came up with is here. And what this basically does is basically the same thing, just that there's an extra node here, which is a sync barrier. So what a sync barrier does is it makes sure that a specific model is done being used before the system can move on to the next stage. So for instance, over here, you notice that all the positive prompts are connected to this sync barrier here, right? The node is called the sync barrier, but then the specific name I give it here is clip barrier, because it is a barrier for the clip model. So the clip loads and then it encodes the text, then it goes through this, so until all the text has been encoded and the clip is done working, it will not continue to the next stage. Once that is done, it will move on to the next stage, which is here, the generate image, right? So all of them will run in parallel. Well, it's still not exactly in parallel, but all of them will run, and then only when the model is done being used will it continue, and then it will unload that model. And then the next model to be used would be the this one, the diffusion model, right? The diffusion model goes and comes here. So then the diffusion model, when it is loaded, you'll notice that it also goes into another sync barrier. So what this one does, I just called it a UNet barrier, because I mean it's a UNet we are loading. But anyway, it's still a sync barrier, right? What it does is it will make sure that we complete using the diffusion model before it moves on to the next stage. So this generates image will run, so the diffusion model will load, right? Then this generates image will run, this generates image will run, this one will run, this one will run. Then it will move here and notice that, so when the first one finishes running, it will come here and notice that, I cannot move on to the next stage until the diffusion model is done doing everything it needs to do. So it will wait for these to finish as well. Then everything comes together here, and then it knows that, it is done using the diffusion model. The diffusion model gets unloaded. Then next, the vi gets loaded. The vi will load, and then into this it goes, and then the images get processed and saved. So I have the code here for the custom node that I made and I just spoke about. And you can read more for yourself here, right? You can read more about it here. I'll link it in the description. You can download it and use it in your own ComfyUI workflows. It's very good, because I tested it out myself, right? When I process 3 images one by one, so one image is generated, complete that, next image is generated, complete that, next image is generated, complete that, right? It took a total of about 1500 seconds, 1500 seconds. right? Then for the second one I spoke about, which was this one right here, where it generates multiple images, but there is no waiting for the model to complete, right? The model gets loaded, it gets unloaded, and multiple times. So the diffusion model will load, process the first image, unload, then move on to the second image, load again, process it, unload, then move to the next image, load again, process it, unload, right? That one, it was a little bit faster, but it was still not the exponential difference I was looking for. So I got 1,200 seconds for this specific workflow. Now, the one I have with the sync barrier node that I created, it gave me 887 seconds, which is amazing. I'm pretty sure I could still optimize this further, but for now, this is where we are. So it gave me 887 seconds for 3 images. Under normal circumstances, 3 images takes me about, it's right there, right? So it's usually about 10 minutes per image, right? Give or take, depending on what other things I'm using for my depending on what other things I'm using my laptop for, but it's about 10 minutes per image. Okay. Okay, so about 500 seconds per image, right? 500 and something seconds, so about 10 minutes per image. Now, with this method, it took a total of 40 minutes for 3 images. Like, that is just amazing. So I have it over here, right? This is it over here. So I can actually even run this. I wonder if my laptop will be able to handle the recording and then the processing of it, but I'll just run it for you to see. I mean, it's going to take some time, so I'll probably cut the video here and then skip to when it's done. So over here, like I was saying, this is the GitHub repository. It's already set up, it's already public, you can go and use it for yourself. And then we have it on ComfyUI here, right? So the name is model phase sync, version 1.01. So if you want to use it in ComfyUI today, you just need to go to your extensions and then you search for phase. And then you look for the one with the name and then you just download it, right? So I already have it downloaded, so that's perfectly fine for me. Right, okay, so yeah. Now we are waiting for the generation to finish. So once that's finished, then I'll show you the results. So I'm not sure if you just saw, but if you took notes, right, the load clip loaded and then it went through this prompt, this prompt, this prompt, this prompt, got here before it came here, and then now it realizes that, okay, now it needs to load the diffusion model. So now it is loading the diffusion model. I think I can even open up the console for you to see. Right? So yeah, requested to load the image CE model. So as that is doing, so yeah, now it's loading the model and then it's going to actually run the generate image step. So now you can see that now that it's done with loading the diffusion model, and it took quite a while to load the diffusion model. So this is basically what you'll be going through: load, unload, and it takes a while to actually finish loading the models, right? That's extra time that it's completely unnecessary. So especially if you want to be able to batch multiple images together. So you notice that now that it's done with the loading of the diffusion model, now it's on the generate image step. So it will generate this one, the first one, then to generate the next one, then the next one, then the next one, before it will move on to the next stage. So if I open up my console over here, you notice loaded completely, right? And then we have the number of steps in the image generation process. So basically this node is currently being run, and then this is what is happening right here. So it's taking 22 seconds per iteration, right? So you notice it just completed the first one, and then it's already moved on to the next one, right? So 8 out of 8 steps complete, and now let's move on to the next generate image node. So that's what is currently going to run. Then to move on to the next, then to move on to the next, then we continue. So you can see it's almost done. We're on the last node, last generate image node, last K sampler node, and we are on the 7th step, 8th step. So yeah, that's currently almost done. Is the next? Okay, yeah, that's it. So now it's going to divide the code and image generated. It's moved on to the next one. Image generated, moved on to the next one. Image, and finally the final one. Image. Yeah, so that's it. So you notice prompt executed. So this one, it's 4 separate images, right? So it took me 20 minutes to finish generating the images. Interesting. Under normal circumstances, it will take me about 10 minutes per image, so about 40 minutes for the total thing. But yeah, pretty cool. So now we have 4 separate images generated for us at the same time. And you'll notice in ComfyUI, it only shows you the first image, right? For some reason, I don't think it's built to handle this sort of workflow, which is exactly why I needed to use the custom node. Make a custom node and use a custom node. But if you go, so even if you go here, right, you'll notice the image is just showing you the first image that was produced. But if you go into your files, and you go and check, you'll notice that the images are there. So this is number 13, right? And this is the number 13. So starting from here, number 13, you'll notice this is the image. 14, this is the image, corresponds to this one. 15, this is the image, corresponds to this one. And 16, this is the image, corresponds to this one. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, so there's the workflow, there's how it works. Again, it's available on GitHub. You can download it and use it in your ComfyUI on GitHub. You can use, you can get it from ComfyUI directly, Comfy node install. And then also there's actually an example workflow file for you. You just download this, drag it and drop it into ComfyUI, and it should set up this exact setup for you, and then you can just build off from here. So one thing about this setup is you'll notice that certain portions are used throughout. For example, we have a seed controller here, and the seed controller feeds into each of them. So it is the same seed I'm using for every single key sampler. So if you want, what you could do is you could create separate seeds for each individual key sampler, or even instead of using this specific node for the seed control, you could just disconnect this and then input your seed control directly, right? And then the same thing for this empty latent image here. I mean, this one, you don't necessarily need to change anything because it's just an empty latent image, right? So it feeds into all the key samplers. So if you want, you could do multiple, but that one, I mean, it's not really necessary. If anything, the only portion that you might need to change is this. And to expand on this, you just need to add more generate image nodes. And you add another positive prompt, and then you add another conditioning 0, and then you add another generate image, and then you link everything together. Obviously, the positive prompt would have to go into the sync barrier, so as the 5th input, and then the output would go into the generate image, right? Then you duplicate. So over here too, you don't need to duplicate this, you just need to connect it here, and then you take the output and then you duplicate the VRAM code, so you create a new VRAM code, and then you create a new save image node, and then that's it. You have your 5th generation just there for you. So yeah, that's how this little workflow works, that's how this custom node works. I think a lot of people will be able to benefit from this, because personally I know I'm definitely going to benefit from this. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and let me know if you use it and if it works well for you, if you have a good experience. Yeah, just, I mean, anything. You could even leave issues on the GitHub in case you want to see like any specific changes or anything like that. You just let me know, right? Cool. Thanks. Bye.